my name is Emily from Two Roaming Souls, and today I want to share with you some helpful tips before traveling to Negril, Jamaica. I personally have been to Negril 4 different times now, and Jake has been collectively 9 different times. So these are some helpful tips that we've learned throughout the years, and we want to share them with you so that you have the absolute best time in Negril. So let's get into it. So now let's talk about where to stay in Negril. There's 3 different areas where people typically stay: in Bloody Bay, Long Bay, and the West End. We always stay in Bloody Bay, and it's kind of a nice small protected bay. We can highly recommend the resort we always stay at, and that is Sunset at the Palms. They're not a sponsor of this video by any means, but we just love the vibe here. It's set back into the jungle a little bit, so it's not beachfront, but you just have to cross the street in order to get this pristine beach area. So if you're honestly looking for the best bang for your buck all-inclusive resort, Sunset at the Palms is a must. Some other larger resorts that you'll find also in this area are the Riu, the Royalton, and Couples Resort. Long Bay is another very popular area for people to stay, and this bay is obviously way longer. People often refer to this area as 7 Mile Beach, but actually what I learned is that 7 miles of beachfront actually includes Bloody Bay as well. But you'll often hear 7 Mile Beach being where Long Bay actually is. This area has typically a little bit more livelier atmosphere, especially if you're not staying beachfront in Negril and you're traveling from a different part of the island, or maybe you're staying in the West End and want to have beachfront access. This is where there's some public access points and people typically get dropped off at the beach. But you'll have plenty of beach frontage to walk. There's some shops, restaurants, and bars scattered along the beachfront, so you'll have plenty to do. So it's a great place to come if you're not staying in one of the beachfront resorts. But along Long Bay, you will find some of the major resorts like Sandals, Beaches, or Azul Beach Resort. There are a few cheaper options along the south part of the beach, so if you're traveling on a budget and you still want to have beachfront access, maybe check into some of these resorts to save a pretty penny. And then lastly, there is the West End, which is resorts set up on the cliffs, which honestly, they look awesome to stay at. The one negative is you don't have the beachfront access, which I assume is why a lot of people travel to Jamaica. But a lot of the resorts are set up on the cliffs. You have epic sunsets, you can jump off the cliffs, they have designated swimming areas, but a lot of tours will cruise along these cliffs, so sometimes it can be kind of annoying because you'll just get like party boats going by like probably every hour, which we are guilty of. So now let's talk about how to get to Negril. Negril is set up on the west side of the island, and the closest major airport will be Montego Bay, where most people will fly into. And then typically people will jump in a car and then make their way to Negril. But the drive is about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on traffic. And there are many different ways and many different price ranges for how to get to Negril. The cheapest way is their public transit, which is Knutsford Express. You can get a ride from Montego Bay Airport to Negril for about $15 per person. But the caveat to this is they have 2 shuttle times, one at 10:15 and one at 5:45. So you might be waiting in the airport for a while depending on when your flight gets in. Another cheap option is to use Get Your Guide. I found this one shuttle service that has great reviews and it's about $26 per person. I'll leave a link to that down below. Personally, we've always taken a private shuttle, which we find convenient just because when you land, you go through customs and then usually they're just waiting on the other side and you jump in a car and then you get going. And our driver likes to bring us a couple red stripes so we can get in vacation mode ASAP. Private shuttles can kind of range in price. We pay about $100 to get from Montego Bay to Negril one way, but for the 2 of us. So it's a bit more expensive, but the convenience is pretty nice. Of course, you can also rent a car. This will probably be the more expensive option depending on how long you stay because you'll be paying a daily rate. But if you do plan to do a bunch of activities in and around Negril, then having a car could be beneficial instead of having to pay for taxis all the time. I will say the roads in Jamaica are not that easy. There's a lot of potholes, and you'll notice people go many different speeds depending on the type of car they have. They also don't really have great passing lanes, so you kind of have to like put your life at risk often. So we just kind of like to leave the driving up to someone from Jamaica so they can get us to and from our hotel safely. And if budget is not an issue at all, there is a small airplane that will transfer people from Montego Bay to a small airport in Negril, and this flight takes about 12 minutes. So obviously this is the fastest option, and I was a little surprised that the prices weren't like absurd. The price kind of differs depending on if it's 1 person up to 4 people. Obviously 4 people is cheapest, and the best part about this is you kind of get like a fun aerial tour over the country as you make your way to Negril. Honestly, I've never taken this option, but I think it would be a fun way to get to and from Negril. Okay, when is the best time to go to Negril? And the answer is all year long. Luckily, Jamaica has a very tropical climate, meaning the temperatures really don't fluctuate that much throughout the year. But of course, the country is very green and lush, and that does mean that there is some rainfall, which you will experience throughout the whole year. We've always went in March, and we've always dealt with like a little bit of rain, especially in like the afternoons. Typically in Negril, the heavier rainfall is from May to October, but honestly, the sun always peaks out and the weather is just absolutely amazing. So even with a little bit of rainfall, the temperatures are fabulous. Okay, now let's talk money and currency. They do use the Jamaican dollar in Jamaica, but I will say most tours, shops, restaurants, etc. will accept US dollars. Over the many years we've been to Jamaica, we've never exchanged US dollars to Jamaican dollars. Currently, the exchange rate is $1 US is equivalent to 156 Jamaican dollars. That can just be nice to jot down in your phone, so maybe when things are written in Jamaican dollars, you can make sure that the exchange rate is correct and you're not getting ripped off with US dollars. And on the topic of money, one tip is to have smaller bills like 1s, 5s, and 10s when you're walking the beach or when you buy a souvenir or you take out your water sports equipment. A lot of times they're looking for like a couple dollars for them helping you out. So it can be nice to just have smaller bills so that you can just kind of tip a couple dollars here and there. Okay, let's talk about visas. Visa requirements obviously depend on which country you are traveling from. Currently, as a US citizen, I do not require a visa to vacation in Jamaica. I'm just required to have a valid passport. Although all travelers are required to fill out a C5 immigration and customs declaration form. You can find this form online and fill it out before traveling, and then it will be saved in your email. But you'll need to show this when you go through customs. I'll leave a link to that form below, and I'll also link to an entry visa requirements document where you can find whether or not your country requires a visa to enter into Jamaica. Okay, I wanted to talk about a few tips specific to Jamaica, and that is when you're walking on the beach, you'll find that there are locals walking up and down trying to sell you their goods. And they are very persistent, and this is one of the reasons some people maybe don't love Jamaica, because you kind of just want to sit back and enjoy your vacation, but you'll often see them kind of walking up and down, looking you in the eye and seeing if you want any of their goods. So they are very persistent. I will say the best way is to just continuously say no thank you, like please move on. Jake's favorite line is have a blessed day, and usually they will then move on to their next victim. You can also haggle prices down on basically anything, but it's just worth noting that Jamaicans are very persistent and you may need to be a little firm with your no thank yous and keep them moving down the beach. Now I kind of want to talk about some packing list tips, and these are things we've learned throughout the years and some items that we now have on our packing list that we appreciate every single time we're there. The first one is towel clips. These are great for when you're at a resort and you want to either save your seat or just simply you want your towel to stay up while you're sitting on your beach chair. Having a pair of croquis for your sunglasses, especially if you plan on going out on the water, maybe you accidentally fall in the water, having a pair of croquis will help keep your sunglasses on. Which leads me to another tip. If you want to do a bunch of like water sports in the bays, you should look into choosing a resort that includes water sports. For example, at our resort, Sunset at the Palms, they do include water sports, so we don't have to worry about those extra fees about taking a paddleboard out or going on a sailing adventure, etc. Another excellent item to have is one of these hammock floaties. These have been a game changer. The water is absolutely beautiful there, so you kind of just want to be in the water soaking, and having a floaty that allows you to be in the water is actually excellent. Another item that we always have on our packing list is an insulated tumbler. Most resorts will give you like a small little plastic cup of either your cocktail or even like water, so it's really nice to have an insulated cup, and usually you can get a bigger drink, so less trips to and from the bar. Like I mentioned earlier, having 1s, 5s, and 10s, like some smaller bills, is nice to just bring with you for any tipping purposes, because traveling to an ATM can actually be pretty costly. Our resort does not have an ATM on site, so we would need to take a taxi, which was about $20 to an ATM. So it could be kind of costly to go take out money. So I'd say also bring plenty of cash, because if you plan on doing anything off-site, like tours, excursions, maybe getting some souvenirs, cash will be the way that they collect money. If you plan on going snorkeling or visiting any offshore reef, then you should definitely plan on bringing mineral-based sunscreen. Something like this brand Sea to Stream or something similar. A lot of the reefs in Jamaica have actually been harmed due to human sunscreen. There's obviously other reasons of why they're being harmed as well, but if we can make the small step to using better sunscreens to help protect the marine life and the reefs in the area, I think that's at least a step in the right direction. So we'll leave a link to that sunscreen down in the description, and we'll give you a little discount if you buy through our link. And then another tip, if you do plan on doing any cliff jumping in Jamaica, then having a pair of travel sandals or water shoes will be super great. Especially for jumping into the water, you can protect your feet from getting smacked against the water, or just climbing up the rocks, it can just be helpful for your feet. And that also leads me into the ladder at Blue Hole Mineral Spring. That was a little like rusty as we were like climbing up, so you might want to be up to date on your tetanus shot just in case. Which then leads me into travel medical insurance. Jake and I always get travel medical insurance whenever we travel outside of the United States, and our personal recommendation is Safety Wing. They have super affordable plans, and you can do short trips like, you know, a 1-week trip to Jamaica, all the way up to multi-month trips abroad. They cover up to $250,000. They also have a $0 deductible, so you can go in for the smallest claims. Plus they cover other great things while traveling, which is like lost luggage, motor accidents, trip interruptions, trip delays, etc. So travel medical insurance is a must when you're traveling outside of your home country, and for the small fee, it can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Also, we'll leave a link to Safety Wing in the description so you can check out plans for your next trip. Let's talk about cell service and eSims. Of course, check with your cell phone provider to see what they cover in their travel plans. Currently with Jake and I's phone plan, we do not have a travel pass, so we would be roaming every time we turn our data on. Most resorts will have Wi-Fi for you to use, but honestly it can be kind of a little hit or miss, especially at our resort. Sometimes we could stream a movie, and then sometimes we couldn't get internet at all, so it's not exactly reliable Wi-Fi, and I'm assuming most resorts are somewhat similar. So the best way to get cell coverage is using an eSIM. eSIMs are super easy to set up just on your current phone. It's usually just as easy as getting a plan and then flipping a switch on your phone to use that eSIM. And then it uses local networks to provide your cell coverage. That's a very easy and affordable way to get cell phone service. We've used Airlo and Maya on some of our other trips, and we have a couple discount codes we can provide. So if you use one of our links, you can get a discount, and we'll get a small kickback to keep this channel up and running. Okay, and lastly, let's just talk drinking water. In most of the resorts and hotels, they will have a water purification system so that you can safely drink the water. I personally use my Life Straw, that is a water bottle with a water filtration system, and I want something as simple as drinking water to be the reason that I get sick on vacation. So it's just a double measure to filter any water, and then I can feel safe just getting the water from like the bathroom faucet and know that I'm going to have safe drinking water. But if you do travel off your resort, then I'd maybe stick to drinking more bottled water instead of drinking out of the taps. But for the most part, you should not have to worry about having unsafe drinking water in Jamaica. Okay, I think that about wraps it up. I hope you guys found this video super helpful. Negril is seriously such a beautiful destination, and I really hope you enjoy your time there. If you are looking for some other fun things to do in Negril, check out our last video where we cover our top 7 favorite things to do in Negril. Otherwise, thanks for coming along on another Two Roaming Souls adventure. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoy these videos, or if you want to find some other fun things to do at other awesome destinations. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.